Who has the edge in Alabama, Georgia? Ole Miss makes a quarterback decision, and our buddy Trey Wallace stops by. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. We got some injury updates at Auburn, at Florida. We'll also talk some key stories for Alabama and Georgia. And Trey Wallace of Outkick will stop by to join us. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every moment count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward Mazda. Move and be moved. All right, we got to jump into it. We got plenty to get into. Let us go around the conference, and we got to start over at Alabama as they are getting ready for their their biggest test of the 2025 season on Saturday, heading to Athens to take on top 5 Georgia. And Alabama currently 0-1 on the road this season, 2-5 overall on the road under Kalen DeBoer's. 2 big road wins last year at Wisconsin and at LSU, but lost at Vandy, lost at Oklahoma, lost at Florida State to start this year. And the Tide will not have, it's not an easy path to trying to get back to the playoff this year. The Crimson Tide have struggled for that consistency. On Wednesday, Kalen DeBoer on his Hey Coach show previewing this matchup against Georgia, saying that the Alabama staff has done everything they can to prepare the team for the loud environment, and communication will play a huge role if the Crimson Tide want to be successful. He said communication in an environment like we're going to is certainly a challenge, but we couldn't get it any louder than we had it today at practice. I promise you that. You couldn't even hear the person right next to you. Alabama does lead Georgia 44-26-4 in the all-time series between the two programs. Last time the Crimson Tide traveled to Athens was during the 2015 season. Alabama won that one 38-10. And, of course, the blackout was the big storyline then, and a lot of folks making jokes about let's hope Georgia isn't going for the blackout. Now, on the Georgia side, their most significant issue so far this season has been the inability to get to the quarterback. Only 4 sacks through 3 games so far for them. It's tied for 105th in the country with Alabama. But despite those issues, Kirby Smart, unconcerned about the sack numbers. He said, we evaluate it based on opportunities. We haven't had a lot of opportunities. People try to measure those things in statistics and rankings, but we can't do that. We played a hefty run team in Tennessee and a team that we were ultimately behind. So he said the other 2 opportunities, we had the lowest number of snaps we've ever had, didn't get many opportunities. He also subbed a lot of guys. So I'd sit here and say, my gosh, I'm so concerned about our pass rush. We got to do a better job at everything we do. Through the first month of the season, the Crimson Tide ranked number 31 in total offense, averaging 458 yards per game. Alabama ranks number 19 in scoring offense, averaging 42.7 points per game. All right, over at Ole Miss, the news made official, well, kind of, that Trinidad Chambliss is going to start at quarterback again for Ole Miss. ESPN's Pete Thamel putting that out there yesterday, according to his sources. It'll be the 3rd straight start for Chambliss, who replaced Austin Simmons as Ole Miss's starter. Simmons suffered an ankle injury back in the Kentucky game on September 6th and is just not fully recovered from that. Is improving, was back at practice this week, and is expected to be available on Saturday. But Chambliss expected to get the start, completing 67% of his passes, 700 yards, 4 touchdowns, and the 13th Rebels prepare for LSU. Lane Kiffin speaking about this matchup and also asked about star linebacker on the other side for LSU, Whit Weeks, who suddenly he's going to be getting a little bit closer with, as the news came out that his daughter, Landry Kiffin, took to social media this week to announce that they are officially dating. Kiffin said, yeah, Whit is an awesome kid from a great family. I'm glad those two are happy together. His comments came after he had fun on social media when the news broke, responded to a few posts saying, take the over, indicating he would love to run up the score on his daughter's boyfriend. He then retweeted a post he made back in May of him, his wife, and his daughter, saying she will, in fact, be rooting for the Rebels on Saturday. Now, one other interesting note here, the future SEC scheduling came out, and Oklahoma going to be a rival with Ole Miss. They've only ever played each other twice, once in the regular season in 2024 and in the 1999 Independence Bowl. Two campuses separated by almost 600 miles, and yet they'll be a permanent rival for the next 4 years. Lane Kiffin saying on Wednesday, yeah, Oklahoma, it's really disappointing. We don't have anything in common with them or our fans, so it doesn't make any sense at all. So that's unfortunate with so many great teams that we've played for a long time here, especially from our SEC West years. That's unfortunate. It is what it is. Obviously, the Egg Bowl is staying, so they only had two other choices. The LSU game makes sense, and that's great, but the other one makes no sense. I kind of like him saying that because maybe this will spurn a rivalry. Maybe this will get Oklahoma fans kind of PO'd, and they can, let's make a rivalry. Oh, you don't want us as a rival? We'll show you why you don't want us as a rival. We'll see what happens there. All right. Over at LSU, Brian Kelly getting ready for their trip to Oxford to play Ole Miss and gave an update on his injured running back, Caden Durham, saying that Durham is currently listed as questionable for Saturday. Kelly said Durham could go from questionable to probable or questionable to out, depending on how he does in practice the next couple of days. Adam Rittenberg reporting Kelly mentioned Durham's status could change, leading up to Friday and how he practices. So we shall see. Should he be forced to sit out, Juwan Johnson could play a bigger role. We could see some guys like, some of the wide receivers maybe pick up some wide receiver runs. I don't know. We'll see on that one. Over at Tennessee, Jackson Moy, Vols defensive lineman, reportedly set to return against Mississippi State this Saturday. Pete Nakos reporting that news on Wednesday. Moy is a former 3-star recruit from San Diego. 6'2", 307-pound D lineman, has been sidelined since the season opener against Syracuse when he was injured on the game's third play. He tried to push it and play against Georgia, but could not go against them. Josh Heupel expressed optimism that Moy would return to the field Saturday at his Monday press conference. Moy taking to social media saying, God, truly, thank you is truly all I can say. Let's ride. Some other news that perhaps Jermon McCoy could be back by the Arkansas game for Tennessee. So starting to get some key pieces on that defense healthy. Over at Auburn, some rough news for them as one of their wide receivers that came in through the transfer portal, senior wideout Horatio Fields, set to undergo surgery for a broken foot. He came in this offseason through the portal from Wake Forest, suffered a broken foot during practice on Tuesday, and will now be forced to miss a significant stretch while he recovers from that injury. Freeze and quarterback Jackson Arnold will be forced to rely on some of the younger guys to step up. Of course, you got 5-star sophomore Perry Thompson, perhaps maybe that next guy to step up in the void. But not much time to get ready. You are on the road at Texas A&M this Saturday. No rest for the weary. Over at Florida, they lost cornerback Dijon Johnson. Will miss the remainder of the season. Was a starter in the secondary for Florida every game this season. Got injured last weekend's game against Miami. Left the game in the second half after a tackle attempt. Napier said, quote, it's going to be fixable. Nothing long-term there, but he will be out the remainder of the season. Well, what is long-term there? I mean, like for life? Because long-term, the rest of the season is long-term. In his absence, Cormani McClain's role should expand. So we'll see how they handle that. Gators are on a bye week this week at 1-3. Now, Napier also gave an update on DJ Lagway, saying DJ's fine after he was seen in a walking boot after the game. He said he got stepped on during the game against Miami. We'll put him in a boot. He's 100%. He said there was a report that speculation around the severity of Lagway's injury, saying that maybe it could be season-ending. And Billy Napier saying that's comical. The kid has been back in here Sunday working his butt off. We can't control the outside narrative, obviously. Now, on his Wednesday teleconference, Billy Napier asked about who will be the primary play caller for Florida moving forward. Are you still going to do that? Billy Napier says, yes, he will still be the primary play caller. He said the entire team has to play better as a renewed emphasis on accountability within the offense. Also, former Florida head coach Urban Meyer asked about what he thought on his podcast about firing Billy Napier. He said, quote, I don't see them making the change right now with $21 million still due. Where are you getting that money from? We shall see. There was talked last year that the buyout money was there then. See if the buyout money is here now, whenever they decide to make a change. And one more note, SEC Nation heading to Athens for Alabama versus Georgia, and a couple special guests going to join them on the set, according to SEC Network Twitter account. They are going to have Luke Bryan and Jason Aldean as special guests on their show on Saturday. So there you have it. Should be a lot of fun. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, Trey Wallace going to stop by. We'll talk all things SEC with him. That'll be fun. That's coming up next. Hey, but first, it is almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's jump into it. For Ole Miss, it was quarterback Trinidad Chambliss, delivering in a big way. Chambliss threw for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, or rushing for 112 yards on the ground, and the Rebels thrashed Tulane. When the pressure was on, Chambliss came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching in the last couple of weeks, his performance wasn't a fluke. He is on a streak. And just like Chambliss delivers for Ole Miss, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. This episode also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You're going to love all the great action that FanDuel has, from player props to building a same-game parlay. You want to get on I like doing the money line on a lot of the underdogs. However you want to do it. You want to bet the spreads, FanDuel, they have got it all there for you. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team, keep an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com. Go get signed up, place your first $5 bet, and get in on the fun. Rolling along here, Locked On SEC, and a big weekend ahead in the SEC. And one of our favorite guys to talk to, getting him on for the first time this season from Outkick.com, he is Trey Wallace, jumping on with us. Trey, welcome in, man. I know it's a busy time of year for you. Thanks for jumping on.
It's good, man. I'm always happy to join on, my brother. It's man, we always run into each other at media days, and then every now and then we'll catch each other on the road at something big. And yeah, it's been nonstop, man. It's been opening the season up in Columbus, and then Tennessee, Georgia, and now heading down to Athens. So should be another fun weekend of football.
Well, speaking of that, I saw you posted there were some big ticket college games this weekend. Of course, in the SEC, you got Alabama at Georgia, you got LSU at Ole Miss. In this day and age, Trey, of HD TVs and everything, I think it's a great thing that fans still want to get out and pay premium for these monster matchups. But expected a big crowd in Athens for Georgia Bama, right?
Yeah, that's going to be off the charts. Like I was kind of surprised by the amount of Georgia fans that didn't travel to Knoxville. That kind of took me off guard a little bit. They probably had like 4,000 maybe. I know the SEC usually allot's like 7 for the opposing teams. But yeah, Saturday night, man. I think you'll see a good amount of Alabama fans making the trip. And then, for God's sakes, Georgia, please don't black out the game. Like, we know how that went last time. Like, just don't do it. Like, have this thing competitive, please. But it is like, overall, like seeing all these stadiums. I mean, look at Vanderbilt. Look at Vanderbilt, what they did last weekend, playing Georgia State. There's 38,000 people. I think that's what it holds now with the renovations. And it's fantastic to see. And even – I'm the type of guy that likes to look at ticket prices. I don't know what it is. I even ask the scalpers on the streets, hey, man, how much are you going for? And they think I'm going to buy a ticket. I'm not buying a ticket. I just want to know how much it costs to get in or how much you're charging. And then I was looking like, Penn State, Oregon, obviously that's going to be a lot. But then, Georgia, Alabama sitting over $400 a pop to get in. And I think it goes to show you the biggest thing is that of all the talk, Chris, about, oh, my God, NIL is ruining the sport and we don't want to watch it anymore. Stop. You're going to show up for the big games. You're going to enjoy college football at its finest. I think that's kind of the biggest thing I take away.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's start with that game because I'm calling this, Trey, the who are you game. Who are you, Alabama, and who are you, Georgia? Because Georgia, look, it was a good win in Knoxville, but man, that defense did not look like a traditional Georgia defense. And then for Alabama to look like crap week 1 against Florida State and then look really good back at home. So who are you? That's what I'm calling this game.
Yeah, and it kind of is for me too. You know, when I was walking out in Neyland Stadium back to my car a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, and Tennessee had put up 38 points on Georgia. And I was talking to a colleague, and I was like, Georgia just gave up 38 points and still won the football game. What does that tell you? And so it kind of sparked a bigger conversation where I think Alabama can take advantage of Georgia's defense a little bit at certain spots. If you're paying attention to the Tennessee-Georgia game, you saw Joey Aguilar literally just chunking 40-yard balls up in the air and saying, hey, receiver, go grab it. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen this weekend against the Georgia secondary. But what I did see is, the 15-yard post across the middle was open. In the flat, 10 yards was open. It just felt like Georgia wasn't putting as much pressure. And maybe that changes this weekend. I do think it does. In talking with some folks at Georgia, putting a lot more pressure on Ty Simpson on Saturday. But it is like, and here's the other thing too. Like Alabama has come off. They've ate 2 cupcakes. They've been nice and sweet. Got themselves back on a little bit of a roll, winning, scoring points and whatnot. Georgia was tested at Tennessee. But this one, it feels like what you're talking about. It's like, okay, like can Alabama bounce back from that opening loss to Florida State? Can they be that team that goes in there and sparks a game for 4 quarters and shows who they really are in the trenches? I think they can. I think that Saturday, I don't know if it's going to be eye-opening as something to use for fans out there, but I do think that there will be some folks surprised by the amount of effort. You know, that word was thrown around so much after the Florida State game that Alabama is going to bring on Saturday, and I think they're going to give Georgia a fight for 4 quarters.
Somebody did bring up to me, though, be careful with DeBoer and on the road. And you look back at their road games last year, obviously they beat Wisconsin, didn't have a problem with that. But in the conference, at Vandy was a loss, at Tennessee was a loss, and at Oklahoma was a loss. The LSU game was the lone road game they won. And then this season already, on the road at Florida State in the opener, they lose. So that's the only thing. Look, if this game were in Tuscaloosa, I'd be all over Alabama, but
right.
I don't know, man.
I think Vegas sitting right around 3.5. I think that's a nice mark. I think also at the same time, folks are still trying to figure out who Georgia and Alabama are. Like, was that really the Alabama in week 1, or was that just a one-off game? You know, and so there's a lot of questions still out there. And also I look at Ty Simpson. Obviously, he looks more comfortable over the last 3 weeks. Okay, that's going to happen when you don't have much of a defensive pressure coming against you. Understandable. That's fine. That's no disrespect to Wisconsin, but Wisconsin fans, you know what you are. And so, and even when I look at what Georgia can bring in a pass rush, sure, Kirby's going to have tricks up his sleeve on Saturday. They're going to bring 7, they're going to bring 8, and they're going to try to float it out maybe in a zone and try to protect across the middle. But it almost feels like you talked about it, a show me who you are type of game. It kind of feels like that for Kalen DeBoer as well. You know, can he go on the road and get that win in the SEC, a big time win? Can Kane Womack respond with his defensive play calling against Georgia? I do think that there's an opportunity there. And that's why I am so fascinated. I was talking to a colleague about this earlier in the week, and, you know, what's Georgia going to do when it comes to the second half? Because Georgia going to come out in the first half, and you know Kirby Smart, they're going to, hey, let's beat them into submission and see what they look like in the second half. And I think at the same time, Alabama is going to have to sustain a couple of blows that are thrown their way. But if we get the type of effort that we've known from Alabama in the past, and I'm not just talking about with Nick Saban, I'm just talking about in general an Alabama football team, I think that can be the separation of why this could end up being a good game and why, you know, to be honest with you, I chose this one over Happy Valley with Penn State and Oregon.
Well, I'm glad you chose this one because next time James Franklin wins a big game will be the first time he wins a big game. No
there
disrespect, just
there
saying.
I agree.
But with Alabama, I mean, again, like, can you envision a world, Trey, like Kalen DeBoer going into year 2 that he has 2 losses before you even get to October. Like, that just feels like, what are we doing here?
We got a lot of talking going ahead. If Georgia wins that game by, let's just say 2 touchdowns, but it's 2 touchdowns where it's not close per se, the conversation is going to shift mightily around Kalen DeBoer on Sunday, because of, you add in the fact, and by the way, like the losses at the end of the season, when we look back, if Florida State continues doing what they're doing, Georgia continues doing it, they win and continue with, like, the losses would be like, okay, well, those are 2 top 10 losses, but it's the way that you lost. And I think at the same time, it's kind of what I talked about earlier. If Alabama gets down and we don't see that punch, we don't see them get off the mat, there's going to be so many, you know this, Chris, like the questions about the Alabama program and where they are at now compared to where they were in the past, and all the Nick Saban references and whatnot, they're going to come back up. And I understand that, and you understand that. But this also gives Alabama a chance to kind of not shut the naysayers up, but at the same time be like, all right, we haven't truly gone away yet. Don't write us off. But like you, brother, like you said, man, if this turns out to be the case, and I'm sitting there after that game and I'm looking at the scoreboard and it's 37-17, something along those lines, the story is going to be about Kalen DeBoer not being able to pull it together at Alabama more so than it is Georgia just beating up, the Tide for another year.
Hey, this episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. And this week's moment that moved the game forward, we're going to give it to Joey Aguilar at Tennessee. Their dominant win over UAB, threw for 3 touchdowns, bringing his season total now to 12 passing touchdowns, over 1,100 passing yards. Aguilar has been outstanding so far in this Josh Heupel offense. He ranks 3rd in the SEC in passing behind John Mateer and Taylon Green. He's 4th in the SEC in passer rating, just behind Diego Pavia, and his 12 passing touchdowns tied for the most in the SEC next to Taylon Green. He's got a big test coming up on the road at Mississippi State this Saturday, but Joey Aguilar, he has been moving. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. Just like there's more to every highlight, there is more to a Mazda vehicle. It is Mazda. Move and be moved. Continue our conversation with Trey Wallace from Outkick.com. And the other big game in the conference, Trey, it is LSU at Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss could be starting to take the SEC by storm, but LSU has one of their best defenses they've had in a decade. What's kind of your feel on this one? Because I just keep looking at saying if LSU's defense is the real deal, Cade Klubnik, preseason Heisman contender, they shut him down. DJ Lagway, 5 interceptions, shut him down. So if they're going to let a kid from Ferris State come in and throw it all over him, then LSU's got problems.
And you know what the crazy part is? Lane is sitting in that room and he's like, oh, man, Austin Simmons, we're going to act like he's not 100% yet, but he's really at like 97%, so he's close enough. I don't envy having to make that decision, but you got to go with the hot arm. And obviously that's with Trinidad right now. I think at the same time, you talked about it, LSU's defense feels like the separator this year. Like, I understand what's going on with Garrett Nussmeier and that LSU offense. I don't think he's healthy. He'll be the first to admit that he's not 100% healthy. But I think there's something else that's kind of going on behind the scenes a little bit that maybe we don't even know about. But he still has the weapons. To me, I understand what LSU's defense has, but I want to see them run the football against Ole Miss. If they're going to have success for the entire season on offense, they got to figure out a way to rush that football and make opponents beat them into submission on that side of the ball. Because you look at Ole Miss, and to me, like, they had the capability to coming out and hit you 1-2 down the field. And LSU is going to have to prepare for a different type of quarterback with Trinidad. He is a different quarterback than Austin Simmons. Like, I feel like Trinidad can get outside the pocket. He can make plays with his legs. He can throw the ball outside the pocket with a little bit more accuracy than Simmons. And given we've only seen a small sample size besides at Ferris State, but looking at it overall, it just feels like LSU can go in there and take care of business. And when I say take care of business, I'm not talking about going in there and winning by 20 points. I'm just talking about getting a win. And the environment's not going to bother the Tigers. They already went into Clemson when everybody, and myself included, thought Clemson would be a national championship type of team, and they won that game in that environment. So, and that's not a dig at Ole Miss, their fans in any way, so don't take it like that. I'm just talking about in general, this team feels prepared. Now, can they go out and execute? That's the biggest thing for me, and you said it. They got it on defense. I got to see it on offense.
And they got weapons, right? I mean, like Chris Hilton is barely caught any balls. Nick Anderson, I mean, all these pieces. So it's like they against Louisiana Tech, they just didn't execute. Like you go back and watch the film, the plays were there. It just didn't execute. So they're going to have to execute.
It's the downfield threat, too, that they've got to figure out how to get on page with. Because if you're going to beat Ole Miss, you're going to have to – if you get into a shootout with Ole Miss, that's where things get very interesting. I don't see it being a shootout, but who knows? It's the SEC on a Saturday. Anything can happen. But that's where you hit it. If you can't start getting your key playmakers involved on every down, and I'm not saying you got to get the ball to them every down, use them as decoys. Find that open man down the field when somebody's running two-man coverage on you, or double coverage, or even they're playing in a dime. Like, to me, it's LSU, like you said. They have the weapons. I just haven't seen it much this year. And if I'm an LSU fan, am I worried? Okay. If it shows up again on Saturday, maybe I'll worry just a little bit, even though if we get the win. But later on in the season, as we continue going on, that's, to me, is going to stand out the most. So I can rely on LSU's defense. I just got to see what the heck Garrett Nussmeier and this offense can do.
Yeah, Les Miles says, win games with defense. I love that brand of football. That's old school LSU style football.
Exactly.
The biggest question this one, though, Trey, is who will Landry Kiffin be rooting for? Her boyfriend, Whit Weeks, or her dad?
What kind of mind, God bless Lane Kiffin. He has changed so much over the years, and I give him a lot of credit, but my man knew what his daughter was putting out on social media a few days ago. I'm sorry. And it's hilarious. I find it's almost fascinating because I can just picture Landry Kiffin coming up to her dad. Hey, Dad, do you mind if I post this picture? It's probably going to cause a little bit of chaos online. Is that okay, though? It's LSU's starting linebacker. Is that it's Whit? Oh, absolutely. Post that picture. And then Lane comes back on social media saying, take the over. It's just, I love college football, and college football in the South is just so addictive. And we get stuff like this where an Instagram post will blow up online, and it's hilarious. And at the same time, Brian Kelly's probably, I would hate to be the SID. Hey, you see that post by Landry Kiffin? And Brian's like, wait, what? Landry Kiffin? Why the hell would I worry about? Oh, you might want to look. So it's all a part of the mind games, man. And Lane Kiffin always has his finger on the pulse.
Yeah, even better if Landry is wearing an LSU jersey on LSU sideline.
Stop it, Gordy.
I think that'd be great.
Oh, my God. Hey, no. She shows up in the stands and what do they do? The split jerseys. Oh, yeah. One side, LSU, the other. Wait a minute.
Was it what? Brady Quinn, AJ Hawk? I think it was Brady Quinn's sister, whatever it was. That was great.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes it a lot better.
Talking with our guy Trey Wallace with the goatee. You got the Garth Brooks look going on.
I've changed it up a little bit. I've had this vintage Garth Brooks hat for I don't know how long. I'll be honest with you. I stole it from my dad at his place one day. I saw it and I was like, yeah, I'm taking that hat. That's mine. I don't know how old this thing is, a long time ago, but yeah, changing things up, man. I went from no beard to goatee. I'm just having a midlife crisis. It's all good.
Well, one more for you. I won't keep you too long. I appreciate your time. Let's talk hot seat. You got a story up at Outkick on the coaches that are very much on the hot seat. Billy Napier, Sam Pittman, and then Mike Gundy gets fired earlier this week. And I saw, the quote came out that his brother says, he is definitely coaching again. So one, is there a fit for Mike Gundy in one of these jobs that could open in the SEC? And is there anybody else on the hot seat?
What if I threw the Kentucky Wildcats at you for Gundy? I mean, that could fit. Bring in the right staff around him. I'm not saying Mark Stoops is going anywhere unless Kentucky's ready to pay him a lot of money to leave. But at the same time, Arkansas wouldn't be a fit for Gundy. They got to go make a splash. But at the same time, I think there would be probably one or two that would that might fit. please don't hold this against me, South Carolina fans, okay? I'm not trying to. But if Beamer decided, hey, I want to go reset my career somewhere, would Mike Gundy be a decent fit to hold things over in South Carolina? I don't know. But I do think where we're at right now in college athletics, I was talking with an athletic director about this a couple of nights ago. And the decisions about pulling the trigger early in the season, midway through the season, and not waiting to December to do it after the season's over for everybody. And the biggest thing that stood out to me in having this conversation with somebody in the SEC was you have to make that choice, knowing you're not going to be able to go out and hire your guy. Because whoever, if you're if you're Florida and you're getting rid of Billy Napier, you're going to go out and hire somebody that's still coaching, that's still involved in the game, that could be in playoff contention, because that's that type of job. You're going to have to wait around for a minute. And I, even though, by the way, folks, every athletic director has the black book where they've got 5 names, and they're going to call up either Jimmy Sexton or Trace Armstrong, the agents, and say, hey, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and start floating these names out to you for this job right now, just so you know down the road. And then they'll make a call and be like, hey, would you be interested once the season's over? And they'll say, oh, well, I'm going to let I'm here for my team, but really, see what you can get out of them. And let's try to figure that out down the road. So I think we're at a time right now with Arkansas. Let's just like for Arkansas's instance, they lose to Notre Dame this weekend. If they lose to Notre Dame this weekend, I think everything that's been said by Hunter Yurachek, talking about how, and I understood what he was saying about national championship caliber program and whatnot, Chris, but at the same time, fans don't want to hear that. Right. The fans that are spending the money on season tickets, the merchandise, the drinks at the games, the parking, by the way, the ones that are donating to the NIL funds and even the big money donors, see, that's where that's the slap in the face. What about the big money donors at Arkansas that ponied up, maybe $2 million each or whatever to be able to help fund this roster? Okay, well, you just said, hey, man, your money's worthless. This is not a national championship team. Your money's not doing anything. I think if he could probably take that back, he probably would. But at the same time, you have to understand where we're at, in this era of college athletics. You know this better than anybody, buddy. Like, if you don't have the right set of boosters around you set up, I don't care what coach you bring in, you're not going to be able to succeed. And so Arkansas's got money. Arkansas's got Walmart money, and they got Tyson money. They got money, but the biggest thing is how much are those companies not giving right now because they're waiting to see what the coach look like in the future? That conversation is being had along a lot of college campuses right now. It's not just in Fayetteville. Gainesville's another one. Lexington is another one. So what I'm getting at here is I think we both probably agree here that this would probably be Sam's last year at Arkansas. And I think that they can go out because they've got the money, Chris, they've got it in the coffers. They can go out and spend money to put together a roster, go buy some big players, set their new coach up with something. I'm not talking about Ohio State money or Texas Tech money, but you can compete with $20 million. There's a number of teams compete. I'm interested in what happens at Florida, because if Billy Napier, which somebody posted, Urban Meyer said earlier this week, oh, well, Florida doesn't have the money for the buyouts, so Billy Napier probably won't get fired. Let me tell you something. Florida had the money last year for the buyout. Right. I promise you they have the money this year for the buyout. So to me, it's, can you get the big name coach in at Florida? And can you, I don't know, hit a triple at Arkansas? And if you can, that's where you're going to start to see separation, because in my opinion, the coaching carousel this year is going to be pretty wild. Yeah. And I'm not talking Chris, maybe you agree. I don't know. It's not like the Nick Saban thing just had a big ripple effect. I think there could be a number of jobs that end up coming open that I think the movement to me will be very interesting. And so, I'm fascinated to see how this plays out. And with Florida and Arkansas, those are 2 jobs that, in my opinion, are worthy for good coaches. And how much money are you willing to spend? And is Lane Kiffin ready to leave Oxford?
Well, that's his name will continue to be in circles. I'll just throw this out there real quick. I think Rhett Lashley is a good name for Arkansas. Obviously, he did it at SMU. if I'm Florida, you can catch a rising star, Alex Golish at USF, or maybe even Ryan Silverfield at Memphis.
John Summerall, maybe?
Yeah, John Summerall's everybody's very high on him. But I also thought, would maybe call a Kurt Signetti at Indiana or something, or even Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. I know he's the alum there, but dude, if somebody wants to triple, quadruple your salary, he'd have to think about it.
Somebody asked me the question today, would Clark Lee fit at Virginia Tech? And I was
downgrade.
Right. I was like, he's going to be very, very picky, because if this keeps up, by the way, Vanderbilt will be 5-0. I'm going to go ahead and call it. They're going to beat Utah State. Right. They're going to be 5-0 headed to Alabama. If there wasn't a Florida State Miami game going on that day, I promise you the college football world would be in Tuscaloosa for a Vanderbilt Alabama game. And that just goes to show you what Clark Lee's doing. I agree with you on Clark. He is one of those names, but I think in talking with folks, man, he is so locked in and building that program, it would have to be something big. And if I'm being honest, there's been so much dysfunction at Florida over the last number of years. Do you take that chance? Do you hit a reset? So I agree with you. I think coaches like Red, or coaches like John Summerall, even Kurt Signetti, is an interesting little flavor, because you're not going out and hiring the young gun, like Billy coming out at Louisiana Lafayette. And by the way, folks, it's Louisiana Lafayette, not Louisiana. Yes, Let's get it right, please. But I do think that could be an option, because how many, in your opinion, is Florida one of those jobs where you leave another big time school to go take the Florida job? Dan Lanning.
Yeah, 5-10 years ago, yes. I think right now, no. I mean, it's a great job, but it's not top 4, top 5 like it was for 20 years.
And that's the problem Florida's running into. They've got money to spend, but at the same time, we're talking about an institution. Don't forget, they got an interim president in there right now. I understand Scott Strickland signed a 5-year extension, but I would imagine when they make the move, there's going to be the money folks that are making the coaching decision on this one. So, yeah, I look at it and I see a lot of questions in Gainesville. But at the same time, I look out in Fayetteville and I'm like, okay, that's an opportunity for somebody to go in there and do some damage. So, yeah, I'm fascinated to see what happens over the next month, because I do think at least one of those jobs will come open in the next month.
What were their 3 permanents in the that Arkansas got? Isn't it like LSU and
A&M and Oklahoma, right? Didn't they go full Big 8?
I think so. That's a brutal. Who wants to walk into that?
No. And then the one home schedule that stood out to me crazy, Tennessee's home schedule. They had Auburn, LSU, Alabama, and Texas. I was like, okay, first off, the AD's going to raise ticket prices.
Yeah, I was going to say, season ticket holders, you're in for a treat, but I don't know if they're going to win a ton of games.
No, you ain't going to win a ton of games, but at least you get to see a decent away opponent come in. So, yeah, that whole thing to me, we could talk for days. No more LSU, Alabama on a yearly basis. The Florida LSU rivalry, Auburn, But look, they figured it out the best they could. And at the end of the day, we're still going to get these matchups. It's just not going to be a yearly basis. Right. I'm not losing sleep because we are going to have Alabama LSU next year. So okay, it's fine. So,
and that's the thing is what we had to get away from was going 10 years without somebody going to Lexington, Kentucky, at least
Georgia going to College Station. You know what I mean? That hasn't happened yet. And
Never
thank
happened.
goodness it will happen in the future. But it's how long does the team have to be in the damn league before you actually go visit there? So they're finally making Georgia go. So yeah, I am. It was the right move. The smart decision by the SEC. By the way, these ADs knew who these teams were back at spring meetings in Destin. So it wasn't that big of a surprise to them. I think it was more, the 4-year thing and where they're going to go from there. So, and hell, by then, Chris, we could be at 20 teams. I saw the Big Ten's trying to float out the 20-team idea with every conference gets the same automatic qualifier. Just stop grasping for straws and just go to 16 and shut up.
Yeah. Well, by then the SEC will add the Houston Texans and New Orleans Saints, and we'll call even by then.
And the Virginia Cavaliers.
He is Trey Wallace. He is Garth Brooks' doppelganger. Trey, always appreciate the time, man. Outkick.com to read his stuff. Great stuff up there, Trey. Again, appreciate the time, man.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Chris.
All right, thanks again to Trey Wallace. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. And hey, we got a great thing going with Locked On and Fire TV right now. Fire TV presents College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview with Gary Patterson, Jesse Holley, and Drake Toll. They're getting you ready for each week of the college football season. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. I'm Chris Gordy. It's been Locked On SEC. Join us for our Friday edition tomorrow.